So thanks for coming, all. So I'll pass the word to our next speaker, Dmytro. Hands of applause, please.
Thank you. Before I start, I want to share something like this is pastel de nata. Many of you know that this is the typical Portuguese dessert. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. It's amazing. This is one of the best parts what I discovered in Portugal. Then I'm going to talk today about some experience which I gathered through sign-in, through login, through registrations, how it works, how it doesn't, where it's like benefits and so on. My name is Dmytro. I'm working at Freeletics. It's a fitness company based in Munich, providing software like application for training, achieving some personal goals like losing weight, gaining some weight, getting better in fitness and so on. But let's think more about the following. Have you ever asked yourself this question? How often do you need to do a login within the app? Imagine you open the app and you think about it. Like, haven't you seen this? One app, same screen, then another, and then another, and more, and more, and more. And at some point your head is exploding and you start thinking, why is it? So I asked myself also, why? One of the reasons is privacy. Most probably you would like to have some sensitive and private content. It can be like such as bank account, it can be like your personal data, like address, or some payment history, and so on. So privacy is one of the reasons why many of our apps, they have registration and then you keep your private cabinet over there. Second reason, it's personalized content. We want that our app has really personal content, and you want to make sure that this content is delivered to you. There are a couple examples of that. One of the examples which I like to showcase is an application for meetups. You're not interested to see worldwide meetups. I'm even not interested to see meetups in my city, all of the meetups. I'm interested in some specific fields. And in order to achieve that, I would like to have my private profile where I would like to define which areas have interest for me. Another example can be like app for podcasts, where you listen to different podcasts and you're not interested in all over the world, but rather prefer some personalized content. So this is the reason why, this is like the second reason why the apps have the sign-in is in the app. But it's not a big problem. We have many different existing solutions, and I'm gonna try to guide you through some of them, which are relatively popular. First of them is login with Facebook. We can like Facebook, we can hate Facebook, but we should admit the fact that Facebook is still a huge platform and has like a lot of users. By the end of 2018, Facebook reported that they have 2.3 billion monthly active users on that platform. And this is a huge amount of users which you simply cannot ignore. And if you would provide within your app an opportunity to those users easily access the content and benefits of your app, it just will be like a win-win for both sides. So from our experience, when we introduced login with Facebook, like registration with Facebook, and then to allowing users to proceed further with Facebook, we discovered that the split was 50-50. 50% users still prefer to do email and login, like email and password registration. However, the other 50%, they decided to go with Facebook, and it's already beneficial. Besides that, it's also worth mentioning that those users, so Facebook provides, this is more like different, but Facebook provides extended platform to reach out those users through the marketing channel which they have inside. That's why whenever you would think, if you would like to have a login feature within the Facebook, think about it, that it would be easier in future to get back to those users and to show them some content. Along with Facebook, we came up later with an idea, what if we introduce login with Google? Because on many Android devices, at least like our Android users, if you have an Android device, usually you ask to log in with your Google account. It's not necessary, but it's definitely beneficial. You get a lot of benefits from your Android phone if you do log in with Google. It's very convenient, especially for Android users. For iOS users, it might not be the best option, but nevertheless, we decided to implement it. And our expectation was, actually also like at the beginning, was roughly 30%. So like 1/3 the users stayed to prefer using email password. Another third part preferred to use Facebook. Another new third part decided to proceed with Google. If you implement it with Google, this is how it looks like. You would see a dialog where you pick up your account, if you have multiple accounts, and then move on. I thought about also the case, what if you provide some data? So I went recently to our business intelligence department and asked them if we have any data of distribution, which users like, how it's like distributed by login, by Facebook or Google or by email. Within an Android, it was, slight correlation, like not exactly like 30-30-30, but the majority preferred to use Google. Or it's no surprise. That's why it showed like we were right with our hypothesis that we would just benefiting from introducing signing with Google. However, with the iOS, the entire picture was slightly different. You can imagine that maybe not all of the iOS customers, they would prefer having Google accounts, they might not need it, but nevertheless they still might use Facebook. So this is a distribution for iOS users. Those data are for the last months, which I took like for August 2018. So I would assume they are more or less representative, but definitely there might be some relations. So Facebook and Google, they are not just a single providers. There are many other providers, like Twitter, like Microsoft, LinkedIn, many of them. Not only like listed here, you can find many of them. And whenever you build in the product, you might think as well which of the provider you would prefer to use. If you're building a platform for social media or like for some distribution, some content, potentially Facebook with login or Facebook with Twitter might be a good option. However, if you build a product mostly oriented for engineers, then you might consider signing with GitHub would be the best option, or like signing with Stack Overflow. I also forgot to mention that there's like some very interesting fact which I personally found. So in those providers, they can also provide you not only information related like email, but they also can contain information like first name, last name, or even like address. So all the information which you put there while you're registering at that platform. Like if you register at Facebook, you might be also asked for a phone number and so on. But after you did the registration, you can come back and delete some fields. I didn't know, for example, that in Facebook it's possible to have only one name. Like you can just have like surname, but don't have last name, because in some countries it's possible to have only one single name. And then if your client, if your product would rely on those data, this might be an issue, because you would expect that all of the users have filled those fields, but in fact, they might be missing. Anyhow, let's come back to all our other providers. I put this meme because I thought like it's interesting. From one side, you think like, yeah, you're happy like because we can implement multiple of different providers. We'll give our users opportunity to sign in with different options. If user doesn't have Facebook or Google, just give them many others. But at the same time, you might feel like this dude. His name is Harold, by the way. Feeling the pain, Harold. This is full meme. And what comes to you is that you start thinking, okay, in order to implement support of one of the host provider, you have to think that you need the implementation of a backend. You have to provide the authentication token, an opportunity to revoking token. You have to think also to manage a user, like to have custom management system. It might take more and more time. For example, recently, Apple introduced Apple sign-in, and now it's when if your app has third-party login on Apple, on the Apple client, it's mandatory to have Apple sign-in as well. So you just can imagine like that. It's always just like more and more work. Even before, like when I was leaving to the stock and in office, and said to my colleagues, I'm going to give a talk about how to do sign-in and how to get the best of it. He said, yeah, but how can you do it without backend? And I told him that that's true, that's valid point. That's why like I'm going to talk about it, like how we can achieve it. Thankfully, there is a solution. One of the solutions I discovered, and I think it's very convenient, and all of us should give it a try, or at least like keep in mind. It's called Firebase. I think like many of the engineers using Firebase, but different services. You might not use one of the services, but you might use another services. And with Firebase, there is a service called Firebase Authentication. With Firebase Authentication, there is a pre-built UI. So within this pre-built UI, you don't need to think from client side how to build something and how to interact something. And there is an SDK for performing authentication. So there are like two different SDKs for already simplifying the life of that. This is how a pre-built UI looks like. I took this picture from their sample on GitHub. It's also open source. You can go there, check it out, the repository, and check how Firebase works. Then it has support of multiple providers. So remember I showed the picture that there are like many providers. This is what you would see in Firebase authentication of supported providers. So not only Facebook and Google, but also Twitter and GitHub, Microsoft, and many others, as well as with email and with password. We'll talk about it a bit later. It's also possible to implement a custom support provider. Imagine that you're building a client. And for example, in a company which I'm working for, it's called Freeletics, if they would decide to implement the open API authentication service, like sign in with Freeletics, then it would be possible to do it also with Firebase. We would be able to integrate it. Then it's possible to do account management with Firebase. So this system already contains custom account manager along with changing user data, revoking access token, doing user logout, and deleting user profile. If you pick up a user, so this is how it looks like. You will see the list of all of your users. From security reasons, password is not shown here, but then you can go and manage this user. Besides that, you can also add user manually. If you imagine there's like unfortunate situation, if users started complaining that they are unable to create an account or something went wrong, it's always possible to go there and change it. And Firebase is also able to manage and refreshing token. So if you have like a token for some period of time with Firebase, it's also possible. Another cool feature which I discovered is anonymous access. If you would think that potentially if signing within your app is not that 100% mandatory and you would like to guide users first through the app and tell them, show them how it looks, like how it's beneficial for them, and give them an opportunity to try it out a little bit, it's possible to do with anonymous access. And with this feature, it's even possible to convert later to registered users from anonymous, so you will be able also like to link those accounts. So it's possible to link accounts not only from anonymous user to like registered users, but also if user decided to register with many different providers, such as if user did like registration with Twitter and user did registration with Facebook, it's still possible to do a linking, and on our system and on Firebase, it would look like it's the same user. It has the full sign-up email support. So if we still decide to stick with the classic password registration, we start thinking about that. Okay, we need to have a case and an opportunity to users to confirm their email. We need an opportunity for users to have functionality to like a forgot password. Like there are like many cases, and at the end, like Firebase provides that. All of it out of the box. You can go there. You just change a template which they provide. You can modify it, and it will be working. Like it's amazing. Like when I discovered it, it was like wow. Now, if I want to start, I don't need backend. Like if you would ever think to launch a product and you think that registration and login part is mandatory in the project, consider using Firebase on that early stage, because then you just save a lot of time and resources. Like all of the good things, there are also some, let's call them the disadvantages. I wouldn't call problems and disadvantages, but rather like limitations. There is some usage limitation. If we would think about that, it makes a lot of sense. If entire planet starts integrating Firebase, the system might explode at some point of time in the future. That's why they have some limitations, such as not more than creating or like accessing 100 accounts from one IP address in 1 hour, or like 10 accounts in 1 second, or not making like more than 500 requests in 1 second. Yeah, it's some limitations, but like I mentioned before, if you're on early stage of building product, it's not a big deal. Of course, if you have product like Facebook with billions of users and you decide to move to it, it's definitely not the best case. It's also possible to extend functionality with the cloud functions and to perform different kind of actions on the user registration or account deletion. So if user created an account, you can link the cloud function, which will be performing on that kind of like a callback, and might perform some action on your, for example, backend, and so on. And now if we would think about the case you launched your product, it becomes very successful in 1 to 2 years. It becomes like a lot of investment, and it's time to scale. You have start having like billions of users and hitting those limitations. It's possible to export those users to CSV or to JSON file. So you just like grab off all of those data, and then put it to a backend, and then like move on. So it's a great tool if you'd like to start. All right, enough about Firebase. Let's move on. Classic. It's this is like our lovely view. Like whenever you build a client, you put one edit text and another edit text, one for email, one for password, grab data from that, and perform user registration. But let's think about it. What's wrong with that? First of all, users have to type. Typing is not the best user experience. Imagine you are somewhere in subway or in a bus. Have to perform login. Even sitting somewhere, typing on a mobile, except if you're chatting. Typing on mobile is not that nice experience. Second, you have to remember. You have to remember your credentials, your email and your password. And since nowadays we have like tons of different accounts on many other platforms, a lot of them, and we just like losing track of it. It's hard. We cannot remember it. Because from security reasons, you might not have same password for hundreds of accounts. I would assume you wouldn't have it. And the most painful thing is that whenever you start putting a password, it hits like, oh, it should be like at least n characters. And then it should contain at least one number, and then at least one capital character, and then at least some special character. I'm like, wow, it's a lot. And after that, you still have to remember that password. It's tricky part. There are like solutions of that, don't worry. One of them is autofill framework. Autofill framework, this is something what comes out of the box in Android platform. It's available from API 26. This is how you would use it. Imagine you have like edit text, then everything what you need to do is to add this property called autofill hints and define a type. There are many supported types, like password, like username, address, even credit card data. It's possible to build it and to associate it with custom use, so shouldn't be a big deal. The more details available in that link. I will share slides afterwards, so we can like check it later. But how it would look like, for example, I own Samsung device, and in Samsung devices already pre-built tool for storing password and managing accounts. If you don't have Samsung, potentially you might also like decide to have something similar. Then you just go to Play Store, and in Play Store, if you search for KeyPass or LastPass or just like Password Manager, you'll find many of them. Pick one of them, and then those apps should serve your needs. But in that case, you as application developer, it's necessary to have those fields. So once everything is configured, already life is simplified. You still need to generate that password, but at least you don't need to memorize that password. Another solution is called Smart Lock for Passwords. Smart Lock for Passwords is a solution from Google, which is using Credentials API, and it allows users to sign in and proceed further within the same account if you would do it in Chrome or if you do it on mobile. So once you, for example, did perform registration and perform login in Chrome, then you'll be able to perform it automatically you'll be able to perform it automatically on device. There are like many. So under this link, case studies of Google developers. What they did, they asked many companies to integrate this feature because they discovered that this feature is hugely not many using it. It's a very underrepresented feature. And once they asked many big companies to integrate smart lock support, and then they asked for results. And first of the result was definitely increasing conversion rate of your users, because it's way more convenient to perform registration and login. You don't need to type anything at all. like if you perform it already on Chrome, then you just do it within your app. It's way easier. Another thing which they discovered is significant drop in registration and sign-in failures. So also that explains very well, because if user failed to perform sign-in and he was like trying it out and it's hard, he just gives up. And with this, it was avoided. So I thought about it like, yeah, let's talk about Google sign-in and so on, a lot of code, and so like, no, like we don't need that. Like it's too much. First, it's available in the official documentation. Second, why should I like saying what is already available in official documentation? Probably guys at Google did it like way better. Instead, I would like to talk about a library called Eric SmartLog. I just also like realized that few talks before there was a presentation from Dmytro about some suspicious libraries. That's why I'm trying like to convert all the cases that this library is not suspicious. It's open source. My team and I worked on it. I can tell how it works. We can check. I also thought about the time that it's actually like single line library. Like it's not single line, it's like 2 or 3 lines of usage. It's very simple, but yeah, it's like relatively simple. And what it does, all of that smart log functionality, it wraps into Eric's reactive interface. And the way how you would do saving credentials, you would call this single function store credentials, where you put credentials and subscribe, and once it's done, everything is like successfully completed, or in case of error, you handle error, how everything works in Eric Java. This is how smart log functionality looks overall. So this dialog comes from Credentials API. We don't need to implement it. It comes out of box, and where you decide you'd like to save or you'd like to proceed. Same goes with restore. And if you need to restore credentials, within this library you ask retrieve credentials, you get them, put it into your fields, and perform login as it's expected. And this is how retrieving credentials dialog looks like. Also, it's coming out of the box from Credentials API. So this one, like if you would think that many companies reported that significant drop off in registrations and same increase in conversion rate, this can explain, because users they just pick an account they needed and move on. The library is available on Maven repository, and since Dmytro referred to it to library and to his library, where he said that it could be a bit dangerous, I decided, okay, let's check it quickly, like what our library dependencies has. So from transitive dependencies, it has Eric Java, it has Timber from jQuarton, it has Play services and Android support libraries. Nothing else. So if you trust those libraries, then it's safe. And it's safe for sure. It's open source. Go to the link if you see some problems or some vulnerability. Feel free to create pull requests. We'll take care of it. Next thing. I also thought about an opportunity of using Fingerprint API. Fingerprint API is available from Android API 26. It has some limitations. We'll talk about it later. But it has also some really good benefits, such as it's fast and easy to use it. It is secure, because you can imagine that identification by fingerprints is quite on high standard, high level, so it's good secured. It's relatively fast to do that. Imagine you just put your fingerprint, everything is scanned, and you're ready to go. Along with that, it's easier. Like, what can be easier? For example, there was a case before with Facebook login or with SmartLog. where it was already simple, where you just do like 2 or 3 clicks. What can be easier with fingerprint API? I would say like, what can be even simpler than this? I have even no idea what can be simpler, because you just put your finger to a scanner and it's done. So let's talk more about requirements to that. One of the requirements is an ability to have, it's available from API 26. Cannot use it earlier. From obvious reason, the hardware is necessary, so you should have a fingerprint sensor, otherwise you won't be able to do that. In order to perform all the actions with the fingerprint scanner, you have to have enabled lock screen, where you would define your fingerprint, so it's already like registered fingerprints. Yeah, so fingerprints I mentioned, and besides that you will have to give permissions to perform fingerprints to do that. There are like 2 different options to do that. We'll go quickly through them, but yeah, let's go quickly through them and then come back. So what I wanted to say is that first it comes to a question like, should we use it or not? And the answer would be like, it depends. It depends where I would like to use it. Mostly, fingerprint API would be used for authentication rather than for login. But I didn't play around with it, and I discovered it should be possible to do it also like with login. So it's not a big deal. It should be possible to do it with. It's possible to do it with login, but main use case for using fingerprints is to do it for authentication, when you would like to confirm some actions which you perform, such as some transaction or buying tickets, for example. So in API 28, there is a class called like biometric prompt, where everything what you need, you call the builder, put all the information to a builder, and call method authenticate, and then it will take care of it. The results will be delivered to the callbacks. This is how it looks like. So in this particular example, you don't need to care about UI at all. Everything is out of the box. Almost 2 lines of code. Oh, a bit more, like, but definitely like small amount of code. The only disadvantage is that only API 28. So it's Android Pie. There's also another fingerprint API, because when I was looking for different APIs, I discovered, oh, there are like few of them, and another of them is available from Fingerprint Manager. There are like 2 different versions of Fingerprint Manager. One of them from Compat library, another from not Compat library. But it's a little bit tricky to implement. So implementation is not that hard. Implementation is you call Fingerprint Manager, call method authenticate, handle the result in it. But what's really worth mentioning, there is no UI, inbuilt UI. This UI is taken from samples of Google, where they just defined like this is how it would look like. So with that, if you proceed with Fingerprint Manager with API like lower than 28, then it's a necessity to implement custom UI, where you like users what to do, where you like advise what to do next. On that sense, I would like just to wrap everything up that it's nice to have happy users. If you have like users who didn't even think about how smooth was the process of registration, they will like happy. They will be happy for using your product. We will like thankful. Then you can focus more on delivering more features and interact with them more. On that, I would like to thank everybody. Do you have any questions?
Questions? It's going to be 10 minutes awkward silence.
No, less. That's 6 minutes.
6 minutes?
Yeah.
No, okay. But if there's no more questions, you will be available on common area.
For
If
sure.
you have any questions, feel free to reach him out. So thank you so much. Let's go to the break. Hands of applause, please, again.
Aqui 10 minutos.